Have you ever wanted to learn something new, but you felt completely lost on where to start? Maybe you thought, I'm never gonna be good enough, I don't have the resources, I don't have the time, or maybe you were a massive procrastinator. So if you've been wanting to level up, switch careers, or just try to learn something new, this video is definitely for you. Let's dive in together. So I'm gonna break down this video into 3 parts. 1 is the purpose, 2 is the method, and 3 is the practice. So first, the purpose. Honestly, when you start learning something new, you have to take a step back and try to understand, why are you learning this? Usually, if you're failing on learning something new, is because you don't have your purpose clear. And I'm gonna give you an example. Last year, I was really trying to read more books. I used to be a very avid reader, but for some reason, I just been really stuck on my reading process. And I was sharing this with my friends, how much I wanted to read more, and I was just not managing to do it. Until one friend, a very wise friend of mine, asked me, Victoria, why is it that you want to read more books? And I froze. My immediate answer was, because smart people read? Which is a bit funny, right? Because of course in my head I know it's to expand my knowledge, my experience, my horizons. But once she asked me that, I got that on the tip of my tongue. I didn't really know why was it that I wanted to read more. I went back to the drawing board and I recognized that I've been stuck on reading because I read a lot in the past and I felt like I was reading things that were repeated, and I wasn't really being able to gather as much information from the time I was dedicating to reading. So I had to take a step back and be like, how can I actually fix this, and why do I actually want to read? It's because I want to keep learning. So I was like, well, maybe I could select my books better and everything. But once I actually understood why is it important for me to keep reading, and it's because I want to keep expanding my knowledge, that I managed to get unstuck on this. And this is why it's so important for you to know your why. If you've been procrastinating on something, try to answer right now. Why is it that you want to learn this new skill? And I'm going to show you how this applies to the life-changing skill that I taught myself. So my personal motivation and the dreams I had. I got heavily bullied at school. It was bad. It was really bad. And in my head, if I could escape Brazil, that would immediately be solved. In fact, I thought that if I moved abroad, my life would magically be better and my life would be like a Hollywood movie. Bear in mind, I was just a kid at the time. I was around 8 years old. And most of the media that I consumed were in fact Hollywood movies, Gossip Girl, some Disney Channel movies. And I would just look at that. And in my child's brain, the equation was very simple. All of the content that I consume is in English. It comes from English-speaking countries. Their life looks so cool. Everything in Hollywood just looked so much bigger, better, more sparkly, and everything just seemed to work out. So in my child's brain, I told myself, well, if I learn English, I can move abroad, and therefore I'm just gonna have the life of my dreams. That's it. That's simple. So yeah, big motivation to learn English, right? To learn a new skill. There's a second motivation right there. So we're talking about motivation, right? And this is where it comes, this little boy band that I was really obsessed about when I was a kid, which maybe you have heard of. They're called the Jonas Brothers. And I was on a mission about the Jonas Brothers. I wanted to be the #1 fan, but really, I wanted to prove that I was the best fan ever. And also, I really wanted to be able to speak to them one day. That was my dream. One day I want to meet the Jonas Brothers, I want to go to their concert, and I want to be able to speak to them. And also, when I was a kid, I really dreamed of marrying Nick Jonas. And we're not going to talk about it because he's a married man nowadays and we respect that. But yeah, big motivation to learn English, right? To learn a new skill. So I did tell myself, if I want to be the #1 fan, I need to know every single one of their songs, every single lyric, word by word, without cheating. I need to know by heart. And that's what I told myself I was going to do, so I could prove I was the best fan of the Jonas Brothers. But try to think, if you're trying, let's say, to switch careers, or you want to learn how to code, just try to think of yourself in that perfect life that you envision for yourself. Maybe it's not perfect, but it's okay, I can afford the things I want to do. With that money, I'm going to be able to one day purchase a house for my family, or I'm going to be able to take myself to nice trips and nice meals. Try to think of the end result of that thing, so it helps you, okay? And try to do this in the most enjoyable way that you can do it. Pick something, if you're gonna code as an example, try to find a project that you're really interested in, so you can actually dive in with ease and with like enjoyment. So here's my process. Remember I said I wanted to be the #1 fan of the Jonas Brothers and I wanted to learn every single lyric of their songs. So this is how I did it. Step number 1, I would just listen to the song on repeat, like at least 5 times. And that's when I would start writing down the lyrics on a sheet of paper. And once I would encounter a word that I had no clue what meant, I would just write like a blank on the page so I could fill that out later. Remember, my level of English was like very low at that point. So sometimes at the beginning I had to start like with looking at the lyrics on the side. And so like I would just look at it like once or twice, like read it, and then I would try to listen and I would just try to write like bit by bit. So once I was done with that, I would go back to the internet and I would check like every single part that was wrong. Like I would have like a red pen and I would like circle every single grammar mistake I made. And I would fill in all the blanks of like things that I had no clue what they were saying. And I would research, what does that mean? What does that word mean? What does that expression mean? So I'd just keep it on the side with like all the expressions that I didn't know, and I would just like keep learning them and like reviewing them later on so I could like remind myself of new expressions that I learned. So then step number 3, I would just do it all over again. I would just like listen to the song all over again and I would write down the song from beginning to end, and I would check like with my first attempt. And then once I was done, I would move on to the next song because I had to learn all of them, right? So why is this process so good? If you pick the right thing to study, first of all, it's just enjoyable. You're doing something that you love. I was literally like just loving learning every single song, you know. 2, I was actually training multiple skills all at once, and this is applicable to so many other skills, right? But for this, I was training my listening skills, my writing skills, my reading skills, and my memorization skills. The only thing that I was actually missing here was the speaking part. However, I loved like singing to the songs. We're not going to talk about that, but that was like the best part, right? So actually I was training my speaking part too, because I just was. And the third thing here with this specific thing is that I was learning how real people talk. And that's why I said you should probably pick a project that really makes sense to you once you're trying to learn a new skill. So like, yeah, I could have gone like straight on and like just got like myself English classes, but I did not want to learn how to speak like a grammar book or like my English class CD. I wanted to know how to talk like Gossip Girl or even like, I don't know, Hannah Montana maybe. You actually save yourself from so much embarrassment. Most people say, oh, for you to learn a new skill, you have to go out and talk to real people to learn. Not true. Oh, for you to learn how to code, you have to go and actually like be in the job market and like take projects. Not true. You can like be in a safe environment and just like train by yourself. Like I was literally like writing down every single mistake I was making, and I didn't have to show people where my mistakes were like when I was out there. Basically, if you make mistakes in private, you gain confidence in public. So that's why I love this method so much. And now number 3 is the practice. Because of course, you might be super happy that you learned so many things inside your room. No one was seeing you actually making mistakes, but we need to put this to test and see if this actually works in the real world, right? So when I was 12 years old, I went to Disney World for the first time. And I had this big group with me of people, like 50 people from my city. And we all went in together. And I remember my mission was, I'm gonna speak to every single person I can. Like I need to speak to everyone I can to practice my English. And my very first opportunity was border control, yes. And I still remember 12-year-old me who had absolutely no clue what I was doing, just looking at this border control officer and going, sir, and I call him sir, you should really be proud of yourself. And he's like, what? And I'm like, you should be proud of yourself, sir, because you are the first American I'm ever speaking to in America. And he's like, okay. And I remember he started giggling and he just like stamped my passport and he was really nice to me. I mean, I was a kid, right? And I'm pretty sure he could tell I was a kid. But nowadays I look back and I'm like, this could have been dangerous. You have to be respectful at border control. But yeah, I still like remember vividly, like my first chance of actually speaking to a native speaker, someone who wouldn't be able to understand me if I spoke only in Portuguese. That was the first time I ever like actually put my skills to test, and I recognized I was actually like pretty fluent. Okay, but just a 2-week trip wasn't enough, right? For me to actually prove that I could speak English like this well. My mom really knew I was really into learning English, and she told me, Victoria, I heard about an event in a specific church and they're bringing a lot of American missionaries. Would you like to go to speak to them, like just to interact? And I was like, absolutely, take me there right now, let's do it. And I made my first English speaking friend actually. She eventually invited me to go do a foreign exchange program at her home in Texas. And I was like, this is my dream, please, let's do it. I spoke a little bit about this in a recent podcast that I recorded. If you like to listen, it's very fun, about all of my endeavors when I went to Texas. But the thing here is, my parents didn't really allow me to walk out of the gated area that we lived in back in Brazil. Okay, I was about 12 at the time. My parents were quite protective. I'm very thankful for that. But the thing is, I kept asking my mom to do this exchange program, and my parents would always be like, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see. My mom was really like not buying the idea. She thought I was like too young and like, no, how am I going to leave, like let my daughter just go like overseas and live with a family? Like, she wasn't really buying it. I actually engaged with my first rebellious act in my teen years. I think I was like between 12 and 13. We had like a travel agency that also did like exchange programs about like 7 minutes from where I lived, like literally. And that was the first time I left home without my parents' permission. Like, I just left without like no adult supervision. And I went straight to this 7-minute walk away travel agency. And I told them like, guys, you do exchange programs, right? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, I have a family in Texas for me. I think back to it like a 12, 13-year-old like saying this, like it's crazy. But yeah, I was just like, I have a family. Can you make things work? And I remember just going back home with like this pile of brochures of like lots of information, and I just like put it onto the living room's like table, and I was like, here it is, mom, dad, take a look. You said you're gonna see. I saw it. I solved it. Yeah, and that was it. And then my parents, like, they basically didn't really like know how to tell me no anymore. I ended up going only when I was 15, which was like, this is so late, why am I waiting for so long? But nowadays I think it was really good because it gave me time to mentally prepare. And honestly, like, going abroad before you're 15, that's pretty young, at least I was. So yeah, I would personally recommend any parents out there to make your kids wait until they're at least 15. But after that, you can't hold them back anymore. I'm sorry to tell you that. So yeah, so that was the moment that I actually moved to the US for 6 months. I know it's a short period, but when you're 15, that feels like forever. And that's when I actually managed to tell myself like, okay, fluency unlocked. My life, like, it's in English now, you know, like for a while I wasn't translating anymore. I recognized I was really only speaking. So I was like, okay, mission accomplished. I have a new skill. So I was basically learning how to learn. How wonderful. And that's why I really want to ask you right now, what is one skill that you love to learn that you think it could potentially change your life? Tell me in the comments. I genuinely want to know. Like, I'm curious about it. I love when people are like trying to learn things. And if I can cheer you up somehow, I would love to do it, like genuinely. I did say I learned a skill that changed my entire life. I'm not sure if you're new to this channel, but I lived in 5 countries before. And I have 3 degrees from 3 different universities, from 3 different countries. So nowadays I live in London and I have an international career. Literally learning English allowed for me to win prizes inside companies that I worked for. It allowed me to literally like move abroad with the company I was working with. It's having like really global connections from, you know, literally with people from everywhere around the world. So to me, learning that skill and becoming fluent in English literally meant unlimited opportunities and possibilities. So I want for you to check what is the one skill that may change your life. You don't have to be naturally talented. You don't have to have anything figured out. You really just need to start and have your why and your purpose clear first. And things will actually fall in place. So the process for learning things is all the same. Just find something that really excites you and stick to it, even if it feels ridiculous. So if this video inspired you somehow, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. It takes a lot of effort for me to make these videos. And of course, share it with a friend who has been needing that final push to learn something. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you so much, and I see you soon. Bye!